Hi, I'm Alan Hedblum. Welcome to our show, a place to feel like you belong. We have with us in the studio today Ning Liu. Ning came to study in the United States over a decade ago. She earned 2 master's degrees along the way, fell in love with the Great Lakes state, and decided to stay. Ning, welcome to Feel Like You Belong.
Well, thanks for having me.
So earlier we were chatting a little bit about your own personal journey to get to this place. So you grew up in China.
Right.
Your parents had certain expectations for you. And then someplace along the way you began to feel that those expectations were pinching a little bit. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Qingdao, China, which is a beautiful seaport on the east side of China by the Yellow Sea, which is part of the Pacific Ocean. And my parents are, very typical and traditional, Chinese parents who work very hard and to make money and trying to support us. I have an older sister as well, to support us and, to trying to give us the best life that they can think of. And as a return, and they expected us and to just follow their guidance and, live on the life that they think will be the best for us.
Because that's the Chinese pattern. The parents say, here is the path to take, and the kids say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and follow.
Right, yeah, at least back in, my time. And, there was nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, that, years later, when I think back, and sometimes I wish I could have listened to my parents because, my life could be much easier. I've been living in the U.S. for 14 years now, and none of my family is here in the States. So, along my journey, and I almost have to figure out everything on my own, from figure out how to get my driver's license and to how to rent, my own apartment, looking for jobs and applying for the green card and all of that. You just feel like you have to do it by yourself. And, also, even, I talk to my mom, every week through back in the time, that was through the IP card. Okay. and then later, when Skype became popular, we used that. And right now, my mom is actually a skilled user of WeChat.
Very popular in China.
Exactly, and kind of like the Facebook, WhatsApp. It's an app, but yeah, she does that very well. So, and even when I have this frequent communication with my parents, but I just don't feel like they could do anything for me because, their life is completely different and they have no idea, what's good or what's bad in the America. And so I still have to, do the best for myself and try to use my own judgment.
Sure. So at what point did you say, I know my parents have my best interest, but something in China just wasn't fitting, wasn't working, and you decided to come to study?
Right. That was back in 14 years ago, and I was out of college and also worked in, a company in China for about 3 years. And so, typically, in the Chinese path at that time, and I should be get married and, should be settled in. And yeah, exactly, having children, and do all of the things. But I just had I had a long kind of relationship with a boyfriend who we grew up together, and we were actually kind of were friends, and then became boyfriends in the relationship, and so we were together for about 13 years.
Oh my!
So I just broke up, and so I feel like I needed some time and to really kind of think about what I want for life, and what would make me happy. But my parents didn't think I had time to wait. Every day all I hear was, "Hey, you are getting old. You will be older every day." Look at my friend's daughter, and they have a baby already. All of those just feel too much pressure. And so I got this opportunity and to come to take a master's degree, in Saginaw Valley State University. That was my first stop in Michigan. So I felt like, maybe I just needed to be away for a while. So that was the main reason I left China. Although that's...
So back then it was kind of like a temporary excuse. Well, it's a short master's program, so I'll just be gone a short while.
Exactly. And even, as soon as I got here, and all my goal was to get graduated, and as soon as quickly as I can, and then use my OPT, which is a temporary student intern visa,
right.
To find a to have some to gain some working experience, and then I can go back to China and find a better job opportunity. Because back in that time, and having a degrees from overseas, and was very valuable,
some
especially
prestige.
Exactly, especially from the United States. So that was my goal. And so I came here, I studied hard, and I worked very hard. I actually had 4 jobs and on campus, and along with getting my master's degree. But at the same time, that China, has been growing, dramatically as well, because that was from the year for 2000 and all the way until now. And so every time I look back, and I found the criteria has been increased. You do not only need to have a degree from the U.S., but they are expecting you to have a degree from one of the Ivy schools, like Harvard or Stanford. And you do not only need to have a working experience, but also they expect you to have experience working for Coca-Cola or Apple, Microsoft.
Fortune 500.
Exactly. And then, later on, you will be more valued if you have a green card, and you will be more valued if you have held a leadership position, in the big companies in the U.S. It's just, things has been changing, and so dramatically, and I didn't realize it then, but now when I think back, I almost feel like it's kind of like there's some invisible power just kind of kept holding me back.
Keeping you in Michigan.
Keeping me in Michigan, exactly. And so at the same time, I met my husband, and so we got married, who is an American, a white guy. And we got married, and then, as soon as we got married, and we have a son, and who is 6 years old now. And also later, I actually, because I received my green card, and I had more opportunities to look for a job that I really like. And so I end up being a teacher for teaching Chinese language and culture. I'm actually a Michigan licensed teacher. And then later I got this job opportunity at MOA, and being a business advisor, supporting the entrepreneurs, and majority of them actually are immigrants, just like myself. And many of them speak in Chinese, and some of them speak in Korean, Spanish.
So very easy for you to support people who have the same kind of experience and challenges.
Right, exactly. But and also, I learned a lot from them as well, because they are immigrants as well, and they have almost the similar dream. They
Sure.
wanted to make the best of themselves.
Sure.
But their path actually are different from mine because I'm more of the academic path. I came here from school and got jobs at big companies and just, and settled in, all actually depending on what people can offer to me. Mm-hmm. But they seems like, is being more independent. They are entrepreneurs and they are more of a risk taker, mm-hmm. Than myself.
Sure.
But it seems like they are happy though, they are struggling, but it seems like they are enjoying, the adventures
you
that
saw
they are
some
on.
role models for success and happiness that weren't the old Chinese model, and
Right.
then you'd married this Euro-American and
Right.
starting to get glimpses. And we were talking earlier about the sense of identity and your own journey in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to need to wrap up here in another minute or so. But I'd like you to sort of talk about what that has meant for you, this journey, and sort of how you come to have you start with a core identity and that slowly shifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like my time in China and even actually my first few years living in the U.S. because I'm being always I'm working hard and towards to a goal that somebody else set up for me. Although I tried to escape away from the path my parents set for me, but I was still kind of living on the path that most of the people think it's the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I'm being kind of losing who I am and why I'm here, and am I happy for the things that I do, and ever like I mentioned to you when I started working with those entrepreneurs, at Amway, and I realized actually there are so many different paths you can take, but the most important is, and you have to make sure that you are happy. Mm-hmm. And also, I think I mentioned to you earlier, when I was in China during my growing up, and my parents always compare me with somebody else's kid. Mm-hmm. I was actually a very good student at school, and I'm always receiving good grade, and I was the leader for my student unit, and I was very active. But my parents are those typical Chinese parents. They would never appraise me in front of me. Mm. They may appraise me behind my back, but they never
the style
told
is
me.
just to constantly kind of push.
Exactly. All they told me is that I'm not good enough. And so that's why I'm trying too hard, and I wanted to be good. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to prove to them that I am good enough. Although I didn't realize that until, years after living in America. So, and also, this American culture has been kind of influenced, on me throughout my interactions with the people living here, because there are so little Chinese immigrants living in Grand Rapids. Sure. So I had to, socialize with people, who are the majorities here. Sure. And which, as a matter of fact, I found actually I enjoy that because I really appreciate, this direct communication style. And those, I just enjoy seeing people, enjoy being themselves and feeling good of being themselves. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that I learned throughout of the years. And finally, I come to the point I know that, I am good enough. Although I do not have a degree from Harvard, but and I have received 2 master's degree, and I'm having a good job, and people actually value my skills and my background.
Sure. And just recently, you've made a transition in your career and now work for Hayworth.
Hayworth, right? Exactly. That is actually kind of my key turning point of realizing or executing, my belief in what is a happy life, for me and who I am. Because when I was in Amway, my last part of the experience is working on a very secure job, but I wasn't very passionate about it. It was about the global transportation. It was a very highly demanded, job. They have a need for people who have that type of skills, but I just wasn't, utilizing, my creativity and, my passion for teaching and curriculum design.
Which you're using now.
Which I'm using now. Yeah, so that's why I actually went, but that was a good job and was very close to home. And it gave me the financial support and for keeping my lifestyle. But when this opportunity at Hayworth came up, I was really struggled. Should I go with a job that supports me and just for having a secured life, or I should take this risk and go with a job that I'm really passionate about. And so when I finally made the decision, I felt like I'm free. I feel like a release.
Wow.
I can finally be me. So.
That's a great place to come to, and I'm afraid we're out of time, and so we're going to have to let it go there. But I really appreciate your coming by the studio and sharing some of your insights and really your life story and your journey, because I know that'll be inspiring for a lot of young immigrants who are watching.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And for folks back home, stay tuned. We'll be coming back in just a moment with some tips on American culture, American language, and even a little humor. In previous segments of What's Up, we've talked about how to make small talk with Americans. We talked about what not to ask. For example, don't ask about money topics. How much did you pay for that car? How much money did you make last year? That's too personal for Americans. Also, don't ask direct questions about family. Are you married? Do you have kids? Because some people are divorced or choose not to marry, and maybe they're unable to have children or choose not to have children. The reasons may be medical or personal, so it's not up to you to ask. So, what's safe, you may ask? On Monday mornings, it's safe to say, "How was your weekend?" Most Americans will share with you what they did, and that will give you information so that you can follow up with related questions. "We went camping." "Oh, where'd you go?" Or, "Do you camp a lot?" Usually good conversation will follow. After a long break, say Christmas vacation, I like to ask a question for which yes is a neutral or positive answer. For example, "Did you stay in the area?" has two good answers. "Yes, we had a relaxing time just staying at home and catching up on some household chores." "No, actually we flew to Denver to visit my sister and her family." If you ask, "Did you travel someplace warm over winter break?" it implies that everyone must travel somewhere on vacation, and some people might feel embarrassed that they don't have the budget to fly away and pay for a hotel. Do you have doubts about what to ask when making small talk with Americans? Write us here at the show. Perhaps we'll share your question with viewers on our next segment of What's Up. A man goes to the psychiatrist and says, "Doctor, my sister thinks she's a dog." "How long has she thought she was a dog?" the psychiatrist asks. "Oh, ever since she was a puppy."